They're the voters who helped decide the federal election. A thorn in the previous government's side. Now front and centre at a meeting of the ministers for, well, women, actually. Current ministers for women. Sorry, Tone.
This was the first meeting in person of ministers with those portfolios for some time, I'm told.
Top of the agenda, the national plan to end violence against women and children.
The national plan will touch on four main areas. Firstly, it will touch on prevention. Secondly, it will touch on early intervention. Of course, there's how we respond, and then there's recovery and healing.
Right now, there's no plan after the last one lapsed last month. Ministers today resolving to fix that.
I'm so pleased that there was a commitment around progressing the national plan to finalise it by October.
And to make sure the new plan is comprehensive and measurable.
What was really clear from the states and territories and the Commonwealth is we want to have clear goals and aspiration in the plan.
Also up for discussion at today's meeting, abortion, with a push for greater access and consistency between states. And gender equality, one of Labor's election promises.
We've committed to a national plan for gender equality. We're establishing a Women's Economic Security Task Force, and we have a range of processes underway across government about gender-responsive budgeting and gender impact assessments.
So, as Australia's women move from the back burner to centre stage, will all this big talk finally result in some big action? Katy Gallagher is the Minister for Women who, as we saw, led today's meeting, and she joined us earlier. Minister, big meeting today, and it's clear that everything on the agenda is very well intentioned, but what's actually been achieved today that's going to make the world better and safer for women and children?
Well, I think the first thing is the commitment that the combined efforts of all of those governments bring around the table. I mean, it's clearly a priority. Ending violence for women and children in this country is a national disgrace. There is an absolute unanimous agreement to that, and bringing the resources across all of those governments together, working across the community, raising the profile, talking about it and putting in place services to support women is all part of the solution, but it's not something one government can do by themselves. We have to actually put the work in and work together to make a difference.
Katy, so much of the evidence when it comes to women's safety points to economic security. There needs to be security of jobs, security of income, economic security in order to make them safe as humans. You're preparing your first budget. When you see the economic outlook and all of the pressures, do you realise that actually things may get tougher before they get better?
There's no shortage of challenges, Hamish, that's for sure. Part of my job as Minister for Women, though, is to really drive the economic security piece around women. So not just that we're looking at services to respond to violence against women, but we are looking at economic participation, economic security. And so that was part of the discussions today. So I think there is a lot of work underway, Hamish, but, you know, the Prime Minister has said every budget we will look at what we can do to make sure we are supporting vulnerable Australians better within our fiscal constraints that we have. And the budget's in a bit of rough shape, which is why one of my other jobs is to try and look at and make sure that some of the waste and stuff like that we saw under the previous government is realigned and repurposed into some of these other areas which are actually going to make a difference to everyday Australians, including women. It
is your first budget as Finance Minister, Katy. I hear so many of your colleagues saying that you specifically are going through it line by line. How many lines are you striking out in it? Because there's actually quite a lot you got to cut. Have you got the big red pen out?
I do have a big fat red pen, Hamish, and there are a lot of lines and there are a lot of arguments and reasons why you can't shave a bit here and shave a bit there. There's no end of use for, I guess, government money and no end of good ideas about what people would like to do. But you're right, we have to make some savings. That's my job. You'll see the results of that in October. I'm working closely with Jim Chalmers on that, and we're serious about it. We need to reprioritise and rebalance and make sure that every dollar spent...
That sounds like cuts, Katy, with that big red pen.
Well, look, there may be areas where we don't think that spending is particularly useful. This is, you know, we've had 10 years of a government. We think there was definitely a lot of waste in some of the things that they did. This is the opportunity for us to rebalance some of that, reprioritise. So it's a hard piece of work, but I do have a red pen. I am going through line by line, and I am hopeful that we'll be able to make sure that every dollar spent is going to be quality and actually delivers an outcome for people, which is what we committed to before the election and what we will deliver.
Now, Minister, Joe Hockey and Matthias Cormann famously lit up some cigars when they released their first budget. So what are you going to smoke?
I don't think you'll see Jim and I puffing on a cigar in the gardens at Parliament House. No, I'll
maybe
probably
you could give
be
that big
collapsing
red
on a
pen a
couch
sniff.
somewhere. Yeah, that's my signature move, a big red pen. I prefer that to a cigar anyway.
All right, Minister, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. See you guys.